Welcome to Expats Like Us, a co-production with Me Vida Margarita, exploring the world of U.S. expat life in Mexico. In each episode, we'll meet new people and hear their stories. We'll also learn more about expat life and get a few tips on everything from making your move to settling in to living your dreams. And most of all, having fun. Let's dive in. My guest today is a friend who we met shortly after arriving in Mexico. We were fairly familiar with some of his work, which he does, because we had seen these amazing wildlife photographs on social media, and we found out that Rick Reiling was the guy taking them. We'll get to those in a bit, but first, we'll start at the beginning. Hi, Rick. Welcome to Expats Like Us.
Hey, Bob. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for coming today.
You bet.
Tell me about your life in the U.S. before you moved here.
Well, Bob, my life in the U.S. was probably like a lot of people's. I had to work every day and deal with the traffic and just the stress of everyday living. You kind of work for the weekend, kind of a attitude, I suppose. It feels like, I used to say that, I just felt like I was always stressed and working, and then you had like one day. It felt like one day. It felt like you had maybe Saturday, but then Sunday you're already thinking, I got to go back to work. Yeah. So I
remember that feeling really well from my working career too.
Exactly. So it was just like that. And I've always wanted to retire younger, just because really life is short, and right. I figure most people work nowadays until, basically almost till you die, it seems.
Right.
To go with that, I would go to the grocery store, and before I got in the car, I would look around and see people kind of all hunched over and just, looking elderly. And then you're thinking, that guy's probably like 60 or something. So it was just like that. It was just, I had hobbies. I've always had hobbies, but it just seems like you never had enough time to do really what you really wanted to do.
So tell our listeners, how old were you when you retired and moved down here?
I was 55.
55. That's pretty early. That's young.
It is, actually. It's very young. Yes.
I think you see a lot of people down here who are even younger than that, but that's because they're like first responders or worked for
that's right.
police departments or military and stuff, and they retire early and get a pension early. So
that's right.
It's either that, then there's kind of a group that are kind of your age and my age that are down here who who had the same feeling that you did, right. and wanted to get to it, and then you see a lot of older people that are traditional retirement age.
Exactly. Yeah, we have everybody. It's really nice.
Yeah. So what inspired you to retire then? Seeing these people and not wanting to be one of them?
Well, that's part of it, I would say. I mean, I think it's always been in me that I just hated work. I like to do things that Rick, like to do. And I always felt that work got in the way, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who feel that way. But on the other side of that, I also know people that tell me I wouldn't know what to do if I didn't work.
Right.
And I look at them like what is it? It doesn't compute with me, but that's the way it was. But we started traveling outside the U.S., going to Mexico. We came here a few times, and Dominican, and just different places. And I think we started like a lot of people here. You watch House Hunters and then House Hunters International, and then you start
Mexico Life. We watched every episode of that, I'm sure.
And that one beach bum, I don't know, it's some other beaches. Anyway, I think you watch those, and some of the questions like most people have is like, how come I can't do that, or why aren't I doing that?
Right.
I think if you watch it enough, you really start thinking that. I mean, especially if you are kind of sick with what you're doing.
Right.
And you just want to try something different. And then it's just a different perspective.
Right. For us, it was, we visited down here, and we have a friend who lives in Playa del Carmen, and, she had moved here, I don't know, in her 50s or something like that.
Right.
And it dawned on me talking to her that, hey, wait a minute, I could do this too. So,
and she was in her 50s?
And she was like in her 50s at the time. And it's like, for some reason that had never clicked in my brain that that's even a possibility. But
she must be rich or
Right. And she's not, she runs a little business there, but
right. Awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what kind of got us going. First of all, you have to plant the seed in your mind that you can move,
That's true. And let me go on with that. I know the first couple times we left the country, and there's probably people that can relate to this. Like, we didn't leave the resorts because you see so many things about, if you're an American or from another country, you're kind of scared, But after doing it more often, we realize, we need to get out more, because there's just so much that you can do and see in all these locations, and shouldn't be hindered by just staying on the resort and saying I'm going to be safe, because that's not the way to do this.
So I'm here with Rick Reiling, one of my friends and neighbors from here in Acamal, Mexico. Tell me, Rick, how you decided to make a move to a foreign country.
Well, as I said a little earlier, I mean, you do watch a lot of house hunters and that kind of thing, and realize, they're doing it, and I can do that too. But, the United States, where I'm from, it's just, to me, it's very stressful nowadays, and the prices of everything has gone up, and it's just so expensive. We lived in a really large home, and we don't have kids. And it got to the point that, my girlfriend would be on one side of the house, and I'd be on the other, and we'd WhatsApp each other instead of just saying, hey, where do you want to go for dinner?
For us, it was upstairs and downstairs, but yeah, we had that same thing going.
So with that, we decided to downsize, and I started doing that. I've been here about 4 years now, maybe 4.5 years. But even probably 5 years before that, I started downsizing, and all that with, just reading more about what it'd be like to live in a different country, and again, watching house hunters. We decided, well, let's just downsize to save money, which we did. And then we were traveling probably once a year. We've been here to Mexico several times, and we kind of realized, we're not missing a whole lot when we're out in other countries. It's a little scary, yes, because it's new, but it's a heck of a lot cheaper, really. We like it also because it's just a little bit more laid back. It's a little less stress-free for us. And I think that was it. We just got looking into it more. It's like, well, how can I make my retirement fund last longer? And where can I go where I'm not going to freeze it to death, because I don't like to be cold, but some people do, obviously. Just things like that.
So in your view, what are some of the most important things people should think about before making a move?
One thing that I know I've heard, and I know you've heard from people, is that there are basically two kinds of people that come here. There's people that can accept that life is a little different and a little more laid back. And then there's another group, a smaller group really, that they kind of like, when they want something, want it now. If I'm going to have an appointment, it's got to happen right then.
Which does not fit with Mexican culture and sensibilities at all.
Exactly. And if you can get past that, it's just one of those things that it's just a different way of life. And like anything, if you're put in a new situation, you got to give it time to kind of get into the new situation. And I forget the rest of the question was?
It was, what are the most important things people should think about before making the move here?
Oh, okay. Well, that is definitely one of them. Some of the other things is just the cost of living is a big one. I mean, for a lot of people, it's different. It's less stress, I think.
Absolutely.
It's something.
Not having a job is less stress, really, for me.
Well, I can tell you this, that, since I've lived here, I've actually, for several different reasons, but I'm no longer on blood pressure medication.
Yeah.
So, which you knew about.
Yep.
So that's a good thing. So it just kind of shows your stress level. And as I'm speaking of that, I can tell you that when I lived in the U.S. and before coming here, I don't think I realized how stressed I was in my life. And now I can tell you, looking back on it, that wow, I really was. So that was a big factor. I think that it's just less stress. Now, it's going to depend on where you go, of course.
Yeah.
But for here in Mexico,
I agree with that too. Now that I think about it,
Really?
I was probably more stressed than I thought I was at the time. Part of it was we moved down here in the middle of the pandemic.
oh, yeah, that's okay.
And it was just weird. Working was just weird then, everything
Yeah.
was remote and the whole bit. But yeah, there was a lot of stress involved in that,
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, you're right. It's you lose a lot of stress when you come down here.
I believe
It's just a part of being here and part of the atmosphere of being here.
Totally.
So were there any unexpected things that maybe surprised you during and after your move?
Oh yeah, we could talk about this a lot actually. One of the positive things really is that you can get anything you need here. I mean, it's always like you typically when you watch something on TV, they always tend to make it like it's different than what it is, like, but here you can get anything you need if you really need it. I mean, Amazon works just as well here as it does in the US. So, and we get packages, I'm going to say 3 times a week at least. And it comes really, really quickly. So we don't have that as an issue. The people are super friendly. The crime, I think for me, that is extremely huge. In the U.S., as we're speaking, there's probably, I think I'm exaggerating, but I don't think I am. I'm going to say 10 shootings in the last minute.
Right.
And I've been here 4.5 years, and I know of maybe 4.
Yeah.
And again, you could say, well, it's not, the news isn't as big here or something like that, but we would know because where we live
Right.
here on this side of Mexico, we would know, people talk. But seriously, the crime rate here is ridiculously low.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm more afraid to look at somebody at a stoplight in the U.S. than I am to do pretty much anything here. It just isn't here. And now, that's not to say in Mexico City or some places like that it might be, but here where we live in Quintana Roo, the biggest factor might be somebody trying to scam you. But
Right. It's interesting because when we were getting ready to move down here, there's so many people that we would say, yeah, we're moving to Mexico. And they would give you this look like, oh my God,
you're going to
get,
yes.
aren't you afraid you're going to get murdered?
I know that look.
And it's like, it kind of, it honestly made me think a little bit, am I doing something really stupid here? But after being here for 2.5, going on 3 years now, I feel the exact same way. I've never felt safer.
No, exactly. I not a fear in the world, seriously. It's just, like I said, the scam thing, but really isn't even that prevalent. If you kind of know what to look for, not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's really not. And so that's it. I mean, some of the other things you asked me about, though, is like, water here is not as, what's the word I want to use? In the U.S., you just take it out of the faucet.
Yeah, right.
It's fine.
The potable water. It's you have to purchase potable water.
Yeah, we do, but it's not a big deal. I mean, it's delivered right to your door, and it's like extremely, I forget what it is, like 40 pesos, which is like $2. Yeah. So, but everybody in my particular situation, we have a water softener and a reverse osmosis, and it's all good. And as far as food goes, I mean, this could be anywhere, but you don't have the what's the word I want? The health inspectors all the time, like in the U.S. Like,
Right.
I worked at a bar once, and they always came in and made sure of things. You don't really see that much here. But, word of mouth tells you, you're not going to go to this place.
Right.
But like anywhere, if you see 50 people outside of some place, it's okay.
Right.
And
I always look for that. Where are the locals? What restaurant are the locals stacking up outside of every night? That's the place to eat.
Exactly.
It's because A, it's cheap, and B, it's good.
Yes. Yes. I mean, you and I, we eat all the time together,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's not a problem at all. But that's about probably the biggest things. I have no complaints. So,
Right. So one of the things that a lot of new retirees struggle with after the honeymoon stage of their retirement, that's when you come down and you go to the pool every day and you buy yourself a 12-pack of beer and go to the pool and you do that for one day and then you do it for a week and then you do it for 2 weeks. And eventually, it's like, okay, I need to find some sort of purpose in life. What was that the case for you?
Not at all.
Okay.
I've always been a person who's had hobbies, and I always say work got in the way of what I really want to do. It's kind of funny you're talking about the pool, because on the way over, I saw my neighbors and they said, I said, what are you doing? And they said, well, we was going to go to the pool, but a little cool. And I was like, I kind of laughed, because I know when I first got here 4.5 years ago, it didn't matter what the temperature was. It was like, dang it, I'm retired, I'm going to the pool.
Right.
And as you said, go to the pool every day.
Yep.
But now, it does get a little bit cooler here. I think today it's like, what, 75? We're calling that cold.
We call that cold. In South Dakota, we call that a perfect spring day,
Exactly. So I was like, no, I've been here long enough that, no, I'll wait till it warms up a bit. But as far as finding things to do for me, not a problem. I've always been into photography, not very good at it, and playing music. I've played guitar now for probably almost 60, so probably 45 years.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. So, I can, for me, I'm the type of person I could watch paint dry and be happier than working.
As long as you have a guitar and an amp and a and a camera.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly right. So, what I did was I got here and I always liked photography, but I never really had time to really understand it. And I'm still not saying I'm perfect at it by any means at all. But what I did for almost a whole year I got here, I watched a lot of YouTube and read stuff. Every day I said, I'm going to ask myself a question like about aperture or whatever. And I'd watch videos on it every single day. And luckily where we live, the jungle's right there. I'm looking at right where I'm sitting here. There was lots of animals here, so I got to go out and practice what I was learning every day. And I love animals and wildlife anyway. So for me, it was wonderful. As far as music goes, I've always played. So for me, if I don't at least touch a guitar once a day, it's weird for me.
Yeah.
And I met a guy in the pool, and he goes, I like the music you're playing on my speaker there. And we got talking. He happens to be a drummer. So shortly after he moved here, I said, hey, you want to start a classic rock band? And so we did. So we've been, in a band now for about 2 years or so, playing about at least weekly. So again, I got things to do. There are people I know here that really like, they're foodies. And so,
yeah, right.
The one guy who unfortunately passed away, he would go out every week, and I'm not sure if he, who I'm talking about. I don't know if he wrote anything about it, but I always encouraged him to, because he was, him and some other people were going out at least weekly and finding these different spots. Because there's a lot of places.
Oh my God, there's, if you look on like TripAdvisor, within a reasonable drive of here, there's literally several thousand restaurants.
Oh yeah, well,
between Playa del Carmen, Tulum, and everywhere in between.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
Or if you're a person who just wants to donate their time, you yourself, you do the Rotary Club, correct? So you're doing that, and your wife is working with.
She just left the place here a little bit ago to go to the biblioteca. That's the library, and they have an after-school program, and she goes to that.
To work with the little kids, yeah. And and if you like to dive, it's endless, really. It's like whatever little thing you've had in the back of your mind that you've said to yourself, man, I wish I had time to do this, or I'd like to know more about that. Now's your time.
Yeah.
There's nothing holding you back.
Yeah. I always think of, I don't know, I remember this from some class I took at one time. There's what's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
And it starts with,
shelter.
The first is shelter and food and to sustain yourself. And the level goes up, and the top one is self-actualization.
Yeah.
And it's almost like when you retire and you don't have anything pressing to do, or you're free to find that self-actualization, I think.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah. I think, I know there are people, as I mentioned earlier in the program, that they have a hard time not working. And I think it's that sense of purpose. And I do know these people. I've met some here, and I'm not sure they're still here, because I said some people just have a hard time with that. But if you give yourself time, and people are very friendly here in Katanaroo and Akamal area where we live, if you just get talking to people, you're going to be inspired to do something. Because, I used to think in my head, the older people, retirees kind of don't do a whole lot, but absolutely not true. I know people here that are almost 80 and they still go jumping off the sides into cenotes and
Right.
they're always playing in the water. So
It's a very active group here, and even the oldest amongst us are very, very active.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So don't have that in your head, because seriously, I mean, whatever it is you think you might want to do or try, you can do it here. And also, if you like to travel, I mean, the airports are fairly close here. I think Cancun from here is about an hour and 20 minutes.
And the new Tulum one, just the same distance the other way.
Yeah. So if you're, we know, you and I know several people here that like to travel abroad, and they go a lot. I mean, they go so much this often. Someone's like, "Oh, you're here?"
Yeah. We feel that way. We've traveled a lot within Mexico because flights are $50, $75 round trip to these wonderful cities in Mexico,
Right.
I mean, it's like you don't spend any more money than if you would have stayed home that weekend.
Absolutely.
And
some of the places in Mexico, I mean, they're not that far to drive. And touching on what I did earlier, years ago, I would have been afraid to jump in a car and just drive, to next big city over or something. But I don't have that fear anymore.
Yeah, that fear kind of dissipates once fear of the culture and what it's like to maneuver, amongst everywhere in Mexico kind of dissipates after a while after you've been here.
In fact, let me just kind of make me think of something funny. The people are so nice in this area anyway that, like, sometimes if you're walking on the street and you can't quite tell if a place is a restaurant or not, because sometimes they don't have like the big billboards like you might see in the US. And so if you accidentally kind of walked in somebody's living room thinking it was a place to eat, they would just sit you down and serve you like it's no big deal.
That's more often than not. That's what's going to happen.
Exactly.
They'll ask you what you want and they'll serve it to you.
Yeah. And only maybe later you realize, wait, this wasn't where I thought it was.
Right.
No, it's great.
I'm Bob Bussey.
I'm Sherry Bussey.
And we have been married 34 years. We moved to Mexico about 2.5 years ago from South Dakota.
I think our top reason was the warm weather of Mexico. We lived in the Midwest. It was cold half the year, and neither one of us were big fans of snow. And this is always our vacation destination. Come to the sunny beaches and the warm water, and we always thought, wouldn't it be great just to stay and not go back to work? So we eventually did that.
The last time that I ever pulled out the snowblower and dug out my driveway, I said, I do not ever want to do this again. And now I don't have to.
So we both do a lot of exercising. I like to walk, I do Pilates and yoga, but I also like to volunteer within the community. So I help out with a little after-school program in the local pueblo. And of course, we have a pretty busy social life.
I do whatever happens to come along for me to do, I guess. I play pickleball. I exercise every day. I've really started exercising a lot since we came down here. And I volunteer with the local Rotary Club down here, and we do a number of projects throughout the area. I've seen other people that do blogs and vlogs and from an expat perspective. And I think that, from our experience, we know what it's like to try and learn about moving to Mexico and all the things you need to know. I think that we can help people with that.
And one of the neat things that we've noticed living here is we meet people from all over the U.S., Canada, other places, and we're very different people, but we all have that same shared experience because we all kind of are learning a new lifestyle and a new place.
We hope to build some followers and help people out, make them realize that yes, you can move to Mexico. It's not that hard to do. There are a number of things that you have to do as far as immigration and getting used to the culture and getting used to all the things that we have with day-to-day life down here. But it's easily doable and it's fun, and we just want people to know that. Don't be afraid to come to Mexico. Welcome back. I'm here with Rick Reiling, one of my friends and neighbors, and we're talking about self-actualization or finding a purpose in retirement. One of the things that drew me to Rick originally was I had seen on social media, he had all these wonderful photographs of the jungle animals and things that you see around here. This great wildlife photography. Tell me about that, Rick.
As I said earlier, I really kind of got into it when I moved here. Just always interested me, and obviously I live right here in the jungle, so there's a lot of animals to take pictures of. So I just started going out every day and taking photos, and at the same time I had to kind of teach myself Adobe Lightroom, and Photoshop. So I really threw myself into that. I mean, I still have some learning to go, but it's something I work with on most days, you know. It's great. I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite things to do here. I just love going out and trying to take pictures of something and getting home, and well, there's two things that happen. You think it was a great shot, and you get home, oh boy, not good at all.
Well, the ones that I've seen, the ones that you put out there, and you have very high standards, but they are absolutely spectacular. Where can people see these at?
Well, I created a website with Wix, not Ricks, but Wix, but it's actually ricks.photos.
Okay.
There's no .com on that. It's just Ricks, RICKS .photos.
Okay.
It'll take you to that, but I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to keep that one, simply because I started uploading photos to Fine Art America.
Okay.
So if you were to go to fineartamerica.com and you look up my name, if you want to do that, it's Rick Reiling, Reiling.
Okay.
And then my portfolio will pop up. And on there you can see some of the photos. You can get them put on almost anything, you know, get them framed or in canvases or T-shirts or shower curtains. Like if somebody wants a Rick shower curtain, that's kind of weird, but you know. But coffee mugs, you know, everything.
Cool.
So it's kind of cool, yeah.
Very cool. Hopefully it's a little retirement income for you too. Maybe,
I hope so.
Well, we will put a link to that on our Facebook page, Expats Like Us on Facebook.
Thanks,
Search for that, and maybe we'll put a few sample photos. Do you have a favorite photograph?
Oh gosh, yeah, I do have a couple. It's maybe not the best quality anymore, but it was one that I saw a green heron. I snuck up on it, and they're pretty skittish birds, and it grabbed a dragonfly right out of the air right in front of me, and I was standing there. This was several years ago now, and I remember just standing there going, like, I can't believe I'm able to get pictures. And of course, I had no idea if I had the right settings or whatever. And I got home, and I was lucky enough that it turned out pretty good, you know.
Nice.
And as my friends like me to tell the story, is that even though the bird had the dragonfly for quite a while, the dragonfly actually got away and lived.
Oh,
which is actually,
so there was a happy ending to the story, really.
For me, but not the green heron. But
right.
Yeah, I do like that one. That's
okay.
One of the ones I like.
Well, very cool. We'll feature those on our Facebook page, Expats Like Us on Facebook. And,
thank you, Bob.
So from your experience, do you have like a couple top 3 tips for people thinking of maybe making the move to become an expat, at least here in Mexico?
Maybe one is just if it's an interest of yours, don't be afraid to do it. There is so much information out there if you just go online and just, you know, don't read just one article, but read several about traveling or living in a destination that you're thinking about, whether it be some of the big ones, as you know, Bob, are Mexico and Panama, the Dominican, and maybe Virgin Islands. But you know, there are several destinations. Go there, definitely go there. And one of the biggest tips I could give you is try not to go to the resort and call that the end of the day. What we started doing later was going to places and renting a condo, and actually and I think you did this as well. You live like a local, as you say, and you know, get out and go to the stores, go shopping, do all the things that you would normally do in the U.S. or wherever you were from, and to know what that is really like. I think that is extremely important because you get a better sense of what it is really going to be like and what it costs. And you have to talk to people, talk to the other expats, because they've been here before you, they've done it, whether it be car insurance or HOA fees.
Doctors and dentists and all that kind of stuff.
That's a very good one. And I know we need to wrap up, but let me just say that healthcare, look into that. But here in Mexico, it's great.
It's fabulous from our experience too.
Yeah. So, just don't be afraid. For us, here's how we ended up doing it. To cut this really shortly, we decided we were going to sell our home, get a smaller house, and then have one here, a condo here. Towards the end, we decided, you know what? Let's just move to Mexico, and if we don't like it, we can always move back. And I've been here 4.5 years, and I can tell you very truthfully, I have no desire to ever go back and live in the United States. So, wise words from Rick.
Very good. Thank you, Rick Reiling, for joining us today.
Thank you, Bob.
And I will probably see you at the pool one of these days, because we still do that. We just
it's too cold
don't do
right
it
now.
all day, every day. All right. Thanks, Rick Reiling, for being with us today.
Thank you, Bob.
In each episode of Expats Like Us, we're going to teach you a new Mexican slang word. This is something you may not find in your phrase book or your online Spanish class or your Spanish app or wherever you're learning your Spanish. Instead, this is a term used primarily by Mexican Spanish speakers. Today's word is
Chingon.
chingon. That's the voice of Erica Kowalski, who is behind Mi Vida Margarita, the online blog, and they are a co-producer on this podcast, Expats Like Us. So anyway, the word chingon. Tell us what chingon means.
It's basically badass.
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 So use it in a sentence.
Tu perrito está chingón. Your dog is a badass.
Okay, very cool. Chingon means badass. So learn it, use it. Thank you very much, Erica.
Thank you.
Thank you to our guest today, Rick Reiling. Thanks also to our co-producers from Mi Vida Margarita. Most of all, thank you for tuning in to Expats Like Us, and thank you for interacting with us on social media. Next time we'll bring you more first-hand information about your international move. Until then, remember, our homes are not defined by geography or by one particular location, but by memories, events, people, and places that span the globe.
What's out there to see. So pack